Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
They told us it was a 24-hour ultimatum. But what if I told you that clock has been stuck at 2 weeks since before most of us was born? Look, we were all told this was about nuclear threats, right? That's the script. That's the movie trailer they sold us. But the receipts? Yeah, they're saying something completely different. Today, we're reacting to Andre Jick's deep dive into the Iran situation, and man, it looks less like national defense and way more like a hostile corporate takeover. We're talking Israel's leverage over D.C., energy squeezes on China. It's a global control grid where we're all just line items on a ledger. Let's look at the data before the elites renegotiate our access to it. Let's go.
So about 2 months ago, I made a video saying that Iran would be next after Venezuela. And I wish I was wrong, but on February 27th, Iran agreed to nuclear inspections. And then 1 day later, the United States bombed them.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives.
That means the US is now at war with a country of 92 million people. And that's what's happening right now. The question that I think we're all trying to understand is why? Because official explanation doesn't make any sense. The official explanation is, this was not a regime change war, but their regime is gone. And that the nuclear program was the threat, but we already destroyed it 8 months ago with Operation Midnight Hammer. That Iran was about to attack the US because they had the capability to make nuclear weapons, but the Senate Intelligence Committee says they saw no evidence of any threat.
There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians.
Wait, hold on. Let's look at the timeline here, because the math isn't mathing, guys. It's chopped. We ask for inspections. They say, okay, sure. And our response is to launch Operation Epic Fury literally 24 hours later? That is some top-tier Toxic X energy right there. It's like texting someone, we need to talk. They reply, cool, I'm down. And then you just immediately set their car on fire. I mean, what's the Pentagon's motto these days? We came, we saw, we decided the we decided the peaceful solution was taking too long. You don't launch, what did he say, one of the largest offensives in history on a whim. This was preloaded. They were either hoping Iran would say no so they could play the moral card, or, and this is the part that actually bothers me, when Iran actually signaled they wanted a symbiotic relationship, the West panicked. They didn't want a partner, they wanted a target. It's like we already paid for the fuel in the bombers and we weren't about to let a little thing like peace stop the show. It's a total gaslight. They wanted the war. The inspections were just a decorative wrapping paper. Honestly, is there any scenario where we don't end up invading someone every 10 years just to keep the stocks up? Drop a comment. I'm curious if anyone still believes the defense line.
If we follow the money far enough, we'll come to a theory that connects all of this. And that theory has to do with something called the control grid and power over the flow of money. So with that said, let me explain who this benefits, how this affects investors, and what the heck is happening. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the geopolitical rabbit holes that keep me up at night. So let's talk about why this is happening beyond the official narrative that we're told about. There are 4 major theories that explain it. There's 4 interest groups, all with credible evidence. And let me just start with the elephant in the room, which is Israel. Okay, so why do people think Israel forced the US to go to war? Evidence number 1 is a video of Marco Rubio explaining why this happened.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
So Marco told Congress, we knew there was going to be an Israeli action. So we struck preemptively. He's saying Israel was going to do this no matter what. And once Israel hit Iran, Iran was going to retaliate against the US by attacking US military bases. And because Israel made this inevitable choice, the US was forced into it as a preemptive action. Now, another piece of evidence is an incredible interview with a former CIA officer, John Kiriakou. I'll leave a link down below to the podcast, but John claims that Israel essentially gave the US an ultimatum. His words: Israel said to the US, bomb Iran's nuclear facilities or we will use our own weapons to do it.
The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said, for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
That's the whole reason behind Operation Midnight Hammer, the initial strikes against Iran, which was to prevent World War III or an all-out nuclear war from starting, right? Now, Israel has never officially acknowledged having nuclear weapons, but a lot of experts believe they do, even though they've never said it. So if John Kiriakou's source is accurate, Israel threatened to use weapons it has never admitted to having, which forced the United States into a war to prevent a potentially much bigger one involving nuclear weapons from starting. That's a huge claim. It hasn't been independently verified, but it does have a lot of credible evidence.
Wait, hold on. Can we just pause for a second? My brain is actually buffering. Did I just hear that correctly? John Kiriakou, a former CIA officer, mind you, is saying that Israel basically told the President of the United States, hey, bomb these deep bunkers for us or we're going to go nuclear. I'm sorry, but since when did the leader of the free world start taking orders like a shift manager at a Wendy's? It's chopped, man. It's beyond bizarre. We're being told we had to start a hot war with a nation of 92 million people just to keep our ally from what? Deleting the Middle East? That's not an alliance. That's a hostage situation with better PR. It's like your friend saying, if you don't go punch that guy in the face, I'm going to burn the whole building down. And we're like, oh, okay, well, when you put it that way, let me go get my brass knuckles.
It hasn't been independently verified, but it does have a lot of credible evidence. Now, even if we discount him and we don't believe him, the third piece of evidence comes from the source, from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been pushing for an attack and a regime change in Iran since the mid-1990s.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
So if you've been paying attention at all, this has been the project for 30 years. This was the goal, and it happened. So that's power player number one. Israel wanted Iran's regime gone, and they got it with American firepower, American service members, and American money. And in the grand context of power, who does this benefit? It benefits the military-industrial complex, which some people call the neocons. Right, that's power player number one. The second theory is even more interesting.
So, the evidence basically shows Israel forced the U.S. into a hot war with 92 million people. And the question we should be asking, the one the media refuses to touch, is how? How does a country the size of New Jersey have this much leverage over a global superpower? Why are we the ones bleeding out our treasury for their regional goals? It makes zero sense if you're thinking America first. We're sending billions a year to what has basically become a mad rabbit-infested dog. And look, I'm not talking about the people, let's be clear. I'm talking about the state apparatus that just refuses to stop biting. At what point do we say enough? If you have a dog that keeps jumping the fence to bite the neighbors, you don't give it a bigger yard and more steak. You put it on a leash. But instead, we're giving it titanium teeth and a GPS-guided collar. It's madness. It's like being in a friendship where you pay for all the drinks, and then your friend picks a fight with the biggest guy in the bar and expects you to finish it. We're being led by the nose by a foreign interest, and if you point it out, the media treats you like you just insulted their grandmother. And see, this is where it gets really weird, because this preemptive strike to stop a nuke, it's the same. It's the exact same script they've been using since before I was even born. I'm looking at these archives, and Netanyahu has been recycling the same 2 weeks claim since the 90s. This claim is literally older than me. It's like a cursed VCR tape that gets passed down from president to president. Here you go, kid. It's your turn to believe the 2-week lie. Don't lose it. I haven't even been alive that long, and I'm already tired of hearing it. How is a country 2 weeks away for 30 years? That's not a deadline. That's a lifestyle choice. At this point, Iran's nuclear program has a longer coming soon trailer than Grand Theft Auto 6. It's a temporal anomaly, man. Netanyahu stands in front of Congress with those little cartoon bombs looking like Wile E. Coyote, telling us any day now. See, that's the thing. Israel's official position is basically, we don't have nukes, but we'll definitely use the nukes we don't have if you make us mad. It's the ultimate don't check my pocket strategy. But here's the thing, and this is factual. Look it up. Under U.S. law, it's actually illegal to give weapons or funding to nuclear-armed nations that haven't signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Yet we're sending billions a year, minimum. We are literally breaking our own federal laws to fund a non-existent arsenal. It's boss-level gaslighting, man. We're being told we had to fear Tehran while the guy telling us is holding an illegal nuclear card behind his back. It's a circus, and we're the ones buying the popcorn. I guess the Non-Proliferation Treaty is a lot like my gym membership. It exists on paper, but nobody's actually following the rules. We're subsidizing a foreign nuclear power while our own bridges are held together by duct tape and positive thinking. It's a joke, but nobody's laughing at the punchline. I mean, why are we breaking our own laws to fund someone else's ghost nukes while our own infrastructure is literally crumbling? It's a total inversion of reality.
Now let's talk about the second theory, which says the reason why all of this is happening has all to do with China. Because the #1 goal of the United States right now is to destabilize the rise of China's economy. How do we know this? We know this because this was documented in the Monroe Doctrine, like the Monroe Doctrine, but Donald Trump's version. The way to disrupt China's economy and get leverage is, for example, cutting China off the cheap oil they were getting from Venezuela, and the cheap silver they were getting from Latin America, and now the cheap oil they were getting from Iran. This is where something called the Strait of Hormuz comes in. There's this body of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula called the Strait of Hormuz. It's very narrow, but about a quarter of the world's supply of oil passes through this tiny little point. And as of right now, it's shut down. Traffic has dropped 70%. There's over 150 ships just sitting there waiting. And insurance companies have suspended their coverage, which is basically a financial kill switch. Because if you can't get insurance, they can't ship their oil to places like China. So as a result, Oil has gone up in price, and analysts are saying if this close lasts more than a couple weeks, we could see $100 or higher for a barrel of oil. Gas prices at the pump are also projected to go up 10 to 30 cents a gallon in the short term. That's the optimistic scenario. Now hold on. How does this benefit the US? This benefits the US because this hurts Iran. What hurts Iran hurts China because China buys a lot of Iranian oil. So from a sovereign powers perspective, right? So from the perspective of the United States, this is a strategic win because it makes China more dependent on US oil. And if the US can control the supplies of oil around the world, that is leverage. Now, obviously, US oil companies will also benefit. ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips. Their costs will stay the same, but the price of what they're selling is going up. Every dollar increase in crude oil translates to higher profit margins for them, aka those companies make more money. But this also benefits the dollar because oil is still priced in dollars. So when oil prices go up, global demand for dollars goes up with it. And we can even see that in the data when we look at the Dixie Index, which measures the strength of the dollar relative to other currencies. That is getting stronger. Some people argue this is a way of saving the global hegemon that is the dollar system. Now, if this theory sounds crazy to you, believe it or not, this was predicted on video by a Russian politician as early as 2013.
So what's their plan? They still need to occupy 7 more Arab countries, crush Syria, and destroy Iran with a military strike. America needs to weaken China. If Iran is struck, oil prices will soar to $200 per barrel. The Chinese economy won't be able to withstand that. And the European Union won't withstand it either. So, by striking Iran, America weakens both the EU and China.
So higher oil prices and flow controls benefits the dollar, the US corporations, and hurts adversaries like China and the European Union. And that was planned a long time ago. So that is the second theory. The third theory is that this is all to benefit the financial industrial complex, which are the real powers behind the people who got the president elected.
Okay, wait. So, we're moving from nuclear threats to basically a giant energy heist. Jick is saying the quiet part out loud here, and honestly, it's kind of a jump scare. The goal isn't just Iran. It's about turning off the lights in China. See, while we're over here arguing about, whatever the news wants us to be mad at today, the big players are playing 4D chess with the world's gas station. It's actually kind of brilliant in a supervillain sort of way. China gets something like 90% of its energy from the Middle East. So if we set the Middle East on fire, China's economy, it basically catches a cold or, a full-blown heart attack. What's the difference between a politician and a toddler? A toddler eventually stops trying to break everyone else's toys. I mean, look at us. We're basically the high school bully who can't pass the math test, so we just decide to pull the fire alarm so nobody can take the test. Actually, no, it's worse. It's bizarre, man. We're spending trillions of our tax dollars, mind you, to destabilize China's economy by bombing a country that actually wanted inspections. And the logic? We have to destroy the global energy market to save the global energy market. It's like a doctor saying, I have good news and bad news. The good news is I cured your headache. The bad news is I had to remove your entire head to do it. We're basically, we're acting like the world's most expensive and aggressive bouncer, but instead of keeping the peace, we're just smashing the bottles so the guy we don't like, China, can't have a drink. It's a joke, man. A total geopolitical joke where we're the ones paying for the punchline. I mean, are we even trying to look like the good guys anymore, or are we just full-on empire mode now? Drop a comment if you're also tired of funding the world's most expensive fire alarm.
So who am I talking about specifically? This is the big money donors. This is a list of Trump's top 20 donors. There's $635 million in total. Look at this as a map of every interest we just talked about. For example, number 1, Timothy Mellon, old banking and transportation dynasty, financial industrial complex. Number 2, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, XAI. His companies hold billions and billions in Pentagon contracts, and his AI company just entered a program to build autonomous drone swarms for the military. That's the technological industrial complex and the military industrial complex in one person. There's number 3, Miriam Adelson. She has spent decades as the single biggest pro-Israel donor in American politics. She's been pushing for a regime change in Iran. That's $105 million towards the policy we just watched happen. Right? Number 7, Ike Perlmutter, former chairman of Marvel, served on Trump's informal defense advisory council. There's number 9, Robert Bigelow, Bigelow Aerospace, Defense and Space. Right? These are military industrial complex adjacent donors. There's number 10, Kelsey Warren, runs Energy Transfer Partners, one of the biggest oil and gas pipeline companies in the country. Higher oil prices from a Hormuz shutdown go straight to his bottom line. That's the oil interest, right? Number 15, Howard Lutnick, indirect ties to Cantor Fitzgerald, has huge interests in Tether and whose company allegedly bet against the tariff policy while advising the president on the same policies, right? He's now the Commerce Secretary. So number 16, Paul Singer, runs one of the most powerful hedge funds on earth. His fund's most recent public filings show hundreds of millions of dollars in defense and energy index funds, which all went up the moment the strikes started. So here we have tech, defense, right? Oil, finance, Israel, every interest group that is represented here. This is their return on investment, and this is only what we know publicly. Now, some people also believe this has all been prearranged, right? Like the deal was made a while ago, and what we're watching on TV and social media is all just theater. Now, if you assume for a moment that this is true, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But if it's true then, why bomb a whole country? If this was pre-negotiated, why just not do it peacefully? And the answer, from the military-industrial complex perspective, is that this operation was a live product demonstration. What does that mean? It means every weapon system just got used, right? B-2 bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles, F-22s, F-35s. This has all been shown on every news network and social media in the world. You could not buy this kind of advertising. Every country watching this is now thinking about what they need to buy, either to do what America just did or to defend against it. That is worth hundreds of billions of dollars in future sales and billions more in stock appreciation. Because we know war is good for business. So that's theory and power player number 3.
This whole thing, it just confirms what we all suspect. The world is just a giant game of battleship for the elites. These people, the ones in Davos, they don't see humans. They see chess pieces. They strategize with this level of detachment that is like bordering on sociopathic. They look at Iran and they're thinking, okay, we lose 5,000 lives, but our Raytheon stock goes up 12%. That's a win. It's a calculation, man. To them, war isn't a tragedy. It's a quarterly earnings report. Think about it, a live product demonstration for hundreds of billions in future sales? A few thousand Iranians? To them, that's just the cost of doing business. War is the best business model in the world because the taxpayer pays for the product and the elite keep the profit. It's like a subscription service you can't cancel. War Plus, coming to a neighbor near you. We're the little plastic pegs being moved around into the line of fire while the billionaires argue over who gets the Park Place of the Middle East. It's funny how protecting democracy always seems to result in someone's stock portfolio getting a massive stimulus package.
See, while we're busy playing Battleship, China is playing Go. And they are smart, man. They're just waiting for the U.S. to burn through every last cent of our credibility and our cash. They build stockpiles while we empty ours. They develop like actually useful tech and infrastructure, while we go into trillions of debt for stealth jets that can't fly if it's a little cloudy out. They're planning a long-term empire. We've outsourced our entire survival to them. China doesn't need to fire a shot. They just need to wait for us to go bankrupt policing the world for interests that aren't even our own. Then they swoop in, offer a high-interest loan, and they don't just own our debt, they own us. It's like watching a guy buy a sports car he can't afford while his neighbor is busy buying the entire block. We're the guy with the car. We look powerful for a second, but we're one missed payment away from being evicted by the guy we've been buying all our parts from. It's the ultimate hostile takeover. Is it already too late to pivot? Or are we just watching the credits roll on the American empire?
Now, if you made it this far, congratulations, because this is the fourth theory, and it is by far the most interesting one. It's going to tie all of this together. This theory says the reason why all of this is happening is because of the technological industrial complex's digital control grid. So let me tell you something crazy that just happened. The US military used an AI called Claude, made by a company called Anthropic. It was used to help plan these strikes for target identification, battle simulations, and intelligence analysis.
Sources tell CBS News the U.S. military used Claude for its attack on Iran over the weekend. Now, the Pentagon's ongoing use of Anthropic's AI model comes despite a falling out with the company over its refusal to grant the military unrestricted access to the technology.
Which means we are now living in a time when AI helps plan a war. Like, just sit with that for a second. That is crazy. Here's where it gets crazier. Just hours after the strikes, Trump signed an executive order banning federal agencies from using Anthropic's technology. Why was it banned? It was banned because the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, publicly said no to the government. He said no to fully autonomous weapons and mass domestic surveillance. The US responded by saying, all right, you are now a supply chain risk to national security. That's a label normally reserved for foreign companies, but this has never been used against a US company before. And on the exact same day, OpenAI, which is Anthropic's biggest competitor, signed a deal with the Pentagon.
Now, hours after the Trump administration ditched Anthropic over the dispute, OpenAI swooped in and struck its own deal with the Pentagon.
So the message to every AI company in the world right now is that if you say yes to the military and yes to the US government, you will get the contract. But if you say no, you will be treated like a foreign enemy. Hold on, it gets way crazier. When Iran retaliated, guess what they attacked? One of their targets was Amazon Web Services data centers in the UAE and Bahrain, not military bases. Iran attacked the cloud computing infrastructure.
AWS has confirmed objects struck the site. Sparks, fire, the UAE Fire Department cut the power to the entire building.
That is the first time in history that commercial data centers have been physically targeted. By the way, those are the servers that run huge parts of the internet like banking data and host businesses. And these are now military targets. People are calling this the beginning of techno-feudal wars, where the military uses AI to plan the attack and the enemy retaliates by bombing the servers. Which means our digital and physical worlds are now colliding. So what happens next? Well, this needs to be a separate video, but I want to give credit to Catherine Austin Fitts. Who is that? She was the Assistant Secretary of Housing under George H.W. Bush. She managed hundreds of billions of dollars in government money. She ran a Wall Street investment bank, and she has a theory that connects all of these wars into one grand theory.
Okay, let's talk about the demon in the room, Sam Altman. This man, I'm convinced he literally crawled out of the pits of hell to sell our collective souls to the highest bidder. Look at what happened with Anthropic. They had the audacity to say they didn't want their AI used for mass surveillance or killing people. They wanted to be ethical. And what did the administration do?
They didn't just stop working with them, they labeled them a supply chain risk. Do you get how insane that is? That's a corporate death sentence, man. It means if you're Amazon or UPS, you can't work with them. Not because they broke a law, but because they refused to be a part of the killing machine. It sends a message to every tech CEO. Give us the keys to target people or we will erase your company from the economy. That's digital fascism, plain and simple. They want an AI yes man to run the war, and if you have a conscience, slowly, you're a national security threat. It's like the government is that one weird kid on the playground who says, if you don't let me use your toys to hit people, you can't come to my birthday party. Except the birthday party is the global economy, and the toys are autonomous drones.
This is something I've talked about in my last few videos, so I hope you've been subscribed, but here's the theory. She says what's being built right now is a global financial control grid. It has 3 parts to it. The first part is programmable money, aka money with rules. Money that knows where it can be spent, when it expires, who's spending it, and can be shut off remotely. The second part is the control grid, right? The digital identity system that is linked to that money. Digital IDs, right? Most likely using biometric data like fingerprints, retinal scans, things like that. And the third part is the physical infrastructure, things like data centers, cameras, satellites, fiber optic networks. Hold on, how does this all fit into Iran? Well, here's a fun fact. Iran's central bank is not part of the Western financial system. It sits outside this control grid. And Iran's oil going to China in non-dollar currencies is not good for that system because it's not controlled by the Western financial infrastructure. Iran is the last piece of this puzzle because it's what puts pressure and challenges the ultimate adversary in this tech race, which is China. How do we know this? We know this because in 2007, the former NATO Supreme Commander, General Wesley Clark, shortly after 9/11, was shown a memo at the Pentagon listing 7 countries to be taken down in 5 years. That list included Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. We have now been involved in all of them. Iran was the last one on that list.
We got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Okay, so then the question is, when does this control grid take effect? What now? Nobody knows, but there might be more regional wars and special operations. For example, Taiwan is of very specific interest, but that's another video for another time. Right now, there's bills in Congress that will make this possible, like the Genius Act, which creates a legal framework for stablecoins, and the Clarity Act, which creates a framework for tokenizing financial assets. Catherine Fitz argues these are the legal building blocks for programmable money. You don't need a government-issued central bank digital currency if private stablecoins will do the exact same thing. And this is exactly what Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, the biggest asset manager on the planet, has been saying for years, even at the most recent World Economic Forum.
We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger.
He wants to tokenize every financial asset in the world as fast as possible. Which means, in the very near future, we're going to see corporations issuing their own programmable money. And if you remember, this is exactly what Russia accused the US of preparing to do, where allegedly the US will dump the entire debt burden on the rest of the world.
Со временем, когда часть госдолга США будет размещена в стейблкоинах, США обесценит этот долг. Еще раз простыми словами, у них сейчас валютный 35-триллионный долг, они его загоняют в крипту, в облако, обесценивают и начинают с нуля.
The US will not be paying anything back. It will just redistribute the debt throughout the world using these stablecoins and CBDCs by giving the powers of the banking system to the corporations, right? This is the legacy of the dollar. I don't think the dollar is going to go away quietly. That's its last frontier.
So let's actually look at the infrastructure here. The reason they're building all these massive data centers, it isn't just because the cloud is full and we need more space for 4K TikToks. It's practical. It's defensive architecture. Think about it from a risk management perspective. They're anticipating that eventually the friction between this corporate grid and actual society is going to hit a breaking point. They're decentralizing the hardware. If all the data, our financial records, the surveillance logs, the ledger, was in one building, that's a single point of failure. A rebel group or even just a natural disaster could take the Eye of Sauron offline. But if you build them everywhere, in every city, every state, it becomes ubiquitous. It's basically invincible. You can't unplug the system if the system is duplicated on 10,000 servers simultaneously. They're essentially building a digital environment where the bars are made of code and the monitoring is just a part of the atmosphere. The goal is to make sure that even if things get messy in the physical world, the digital control, the programmable money, the data stays intact. They're building a god, man, or at least a digital version of one that's 100% efficient. It knows every penny you spend and every word you say. And the funniest part? We're the ones paying the utility bill to keep it running. It's a wild business model. The only system in history where the people inside are required to pay for the locks on their own doors. But hey, the Wi-Fi is fast, right? That's the trade-off. We get our cat videos and instant delivery, and they get total oversight of our financial existence. Seems like a fair exchange in 2026.
All right, let's actually bring it all home because, wow, we just sat through 22 minutes of Andre Jick basically proving that the world's greatest superpower is being operated like a puppet on a string. Think about the ground we covered today. We saw how the U.S. gets ultimatumed into wars by regional partners. We saw the 30-year, 2-week nuclear loop that, let's be real, is literally older than half the people watching this video. We saw the economic hit job on China using Middle Eastern oil as the weapon. And then, the cherry on top, Sam Altman and the Silicon Valley elites building a digital control grid so they can automate the next conflict and blacklist anyone with a conscience. But here is the real take, guys, the one they don't want you to say out loud. When you look at the history of these conflicts, from the WMDs in Iraq to the 2-week nukes in Tehran, it becomes painfully obvious. Most of these wars are built on a foundation of absolute 100% grade A false claims. Why? Because these wars aren't about democracy or freedom. They're about meeting the interests of, let's call them the Epstein class. The private island owning, Davos attending, stock manipulating elites who treat your tax dollars like their personal venture capital fund and your life like a disposable asset. They don't care about the security of the American people. They care about the security of the digital ledger and their Raytheon dividends. We're being led into a digital prison by people who think they're gods, using lies that are older than the internet. Honestly, if you asked an elite why they keep lying to us, they'd probably just say, it's not a lie if the people paying for it are too distracted by TikTok to notice. Don't be the person who doesn't notice. Drop a comment below. Do you think we're actually going to see the end of this loop, or are we just 14 days away from another 30 years of 2 weeks? Smash that like button, subscribe to stay ahead of the grid, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay woke, stay sharp, and for the love of God, stop buying the popcorn they're selling at this circus. Peace.